Do you wonder about the steps to becoming a private pilot? Well, to be frank, there are a number of YouTube videos out there that do discuss that subject. But that's not the first question you should be asking yourself. The bigger and more important question is, do I have the right stuff to successfully complete private pilot training? And that's what this video is about. 5 essential traits that distinguish between a successful private pilot and a wannabe who doesn't make it past solo. I'm Geoff. This is Geoff's Plane Talk, and I'm a general aviation pilot with 25 years experience. I undertook my private pilot training while I was a full-time consultant, married with 3 children, and it took me 29 months. So believe me when I tell you, I know what it takes to undertake the training. And if you stay with me to the end of the video, you'll learn these 5 essential traits and use that to help make an informed decision about undertaking private pilot training. Number 1, passion. Do you frequently like to go to your local airport and look at airplanes? I've been doing that for years and I still do. Do you instinctively look up when you hear an aircraft passing overhead? Guilty. Do you frequently like to read aviation magazines and aviation-related books? For example, I'm a frequent reader of various aviation magazines and journals, Private Pilot, Flying, and ironically, one of my favorite books was called Learning How to Fly an Airplane. Do you have a scanner and listen to air traffic control communications? I bought this many years ago, used to go to a local airport, turn it on, and I'd listen to air traffic control messages between pilots and the tower. And this gave me an understanding over time of understanding the phraseology, the lingo, the cadence, what was being said, why it was being said. And this was really helpful for me later on when I was undertaking my pilot training and dealing with air traffic control. And I touch on this briefly in my most recent video about ATC anxiety. Do you attend aviation events, air shows? I've been doing that for years and I still do when I can. And finally, do you just long to fly? So passion is the fuel for your aviation journey. And without it, your foundation will be weaker and maybe subject to challenges when the going gets tough during your flight training. And believe me, it will. Number 2, curiosity. Are you curious about the world around you? The physics of flight? How do airplanes fly? What is a stall? Do you like watching documentaries and figuring out why things work and how they work? Even things like aircraft checklists. What is it? How is it sequenced? Why does it work that way? Why is it important? You see, curious students don't just memorize. They dig deeper. They want to understand why. And that can make the difference between being a successful pilot and a lucky pilot. So a lack of curiosity may make your flight training experience more challenging. So that's an important one to consider. Number 3, commitment. Flight training takes time, money, and mental focus. You need to schedule ground school, flight lessons, self-study. All the things that you need to be thinking about, and even when life gets busy. In my case, I was doing my flight training and juggling all of those things while also dealing with a full-time career and raising a family. So I understand the value of commitment. If you're not fully in, distractions will pull you out. So flight training must be a priority. It must be something that you're 100% committed to. Otherwise, it may start to seem like a tedious process and your motivation may fade. Number 4, you need to have a solid study ethic. You know, flying is not just a hands-on thing, it's a knowledge game too. And in your flight training, you're going to be learning things like airspace, air law, navigation, reading VFR chart as part of your flight planning, meteorology, understanding weather systems and how it affects flight, Understanding airport charts. This will be something you'll be using probably on every flight. Understanding emergency procedures and emergency codes in case you're ever subject to a forced landing. Crosswind limitations for your aircraft and the corrections you need to make, and go, no-go flying decisions. Air traffic control communications. This is a guidebook on the VFR phraseology, what to say and how to say it. I talked about this in my previous video on ATC anxiety. You need to know this inside and out so you can apply it during your training. And not the least, pilot operating handbook for the aircraft you'll be flying and training in. Cessna 172. This is full of procedures, weight and balance, aircraft systems, emergency and regular operating procedures, performance data. You need to know this inside and out for that particular aircraft. If you're flying a Katana, and I've flown both, you'll need to know its pilot operating handbook as well. So basically, to succeed, you're going to need to treat your flight training like you're a student, you're at school. And for some of you, that may have been a while, so it's a new adjustment. You have to reacquaint yourself with the idea of preparing, making notes, studying at home. You'll be writing lots of quizzes. When you get ready for your written exam, it's not uncommon to have a number of practice tests, practice exams. I wrote 7 of those in getting ready for my written exam. And then, of course, you have the flight test as well. But you need to be working hard as a student, minimizing distractions and being all in order to be effective during your flight training. And the last key parameter is you need to come to every lesson fully prepared. You've read the material in advance, you've made your notes, you're ready with questions. These are all the elements of successful flight training. Again, having that strong study ethic. And finally, number 5, perseverance. I liken perseverance to the glue that helps hold the flight training foundation together. You know, during your flight training, you'll experience some frustrating and difficult times. It's inevitable. Everybody goes through that. You may struggle with crosswinds or bounced landings or trouble with ATC communications. And I alluded to that in my previous ATC video. My struggle through my training was just getting landings correct. I was struggling to the point where I was almost ready to give up. And then change in the flight instructor brought some new perspectives. All of a sudden, my landing started to come together, my confidence increased, and I moved on. But these kinds of things will happen in your training, and you will make mistakes. But successful students don't give up. They make the mistakes, they learn from them, and they move on. And that's how you continue to thrive during your flight training. So take heart, perseverance will be your ally. So before you make this big decision that will take up some time and money and lots of work, ask yourself if you have these 5 traits: passion, curiosity, commitment, a good study ethic, and perseverance. If you don't have those traits, then you'll save yourself a lot of time, frustration, and money. If you still decide to press on, you may find your flight training experience a little more challenging. If you do possess those traits, then your flight training, I believe, will be a great success. And those traits will do you well throughout your aviation journey. So post your comments about your aviation journey and maybe your flight training experiences. And if you have any questions about flight training, post them as well in the comments, and I'll be happy to review them and answer. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, hit that like and subscribe button and watch for additional videos to come providing some plain talk advice. Thanks though for watching. I appreciate you liking and subscribing. And until next time, I'll see you. Thanks and take care.